Something like that. Okay, so I know what you might be saying, like, what? How does watching Yellowstone, which, my God, I don't watch TV, like maybe a show or two a year, like maybe a football game every 4 years or whatever. I don't watch TV, but man, my wife finally broke me down and is like, you gotta watch Yellowstone. I'm like, Yellowstone, really? Like, okay, whatever. And then it was like crack, just smack, like one episode. And I'm like, what's gonna happen next? Oh my God, oh my God. And so finally, it's so freaking good. So finally, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, if I don't like practice while I'm watching this, I'm just like gonna go off the rails and like everything's just gonna suffer. So how does watching Yellowstone, or how did watching Yellowstone make me a better guitar player? I took my guitar and I'm like, this freaking show has got a wicked soundtrack. I mean, there's like Blackberry Smoke, there's just wicked, like awesome Southern rock, country, but then of course, being a good show, whoever writes the music for the actual show itself and does like the background stuff, and like there's a gnarly scene, or they want it to be beautiful and there's like a killer pads on the keyboard or whatever, a Willie Nelson song or whatever. I just am like, okay, well, whatever comes up, I'm just gonna try to play to it, right? No matter what key or whatever, I'm just gonna try to figure out how I can jam and watch this freaking show until it's done. I finally blew through all the seasons. I'm like, okay, I can get back to work. But it actually really helped me become a better guitar player. Because it really does develop your ear, right? No matter what it is, no matter, anytime you're sitting on the couch, music is a part of TV, period. It's always gonna be, or movies or whatever. So take your guitar, put it in your hands and multitask. Even if you play for 15 minutes in a 2-hour span, at least you're developing your ear and ideas in the process, right? And so the cool thing about the show was it's all different types of music. There was like, old cool Willie Nelson, like kind of swung old salty country song. And then there was rock, like Blackberry Smoke stuff. And then there was just all sorts of other Johnny Cash and like just killer music, right? In the background. And so it really got me a chance to like on the fly, like, okay, where am I? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna make music? And it happens so quick that you kind of like have to, pull yourself back and just do really basic melodies, right? And that's what wins the day anyways, right? So maybe you're listening to the song and it's a really great melody line and you just figure out what the melody line is on guitar. And then maybe you figure out what the changes are. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's how you create a melody, right? And so one of the quickest ways I've found to do that lately is by doing double stops, right? That kind of Hendrix kind of thing. Nothing on earth made me more melodic in my own playing than learning how to play Jimi Hendrix stuff. The double stops, because it shows you how to play chords all over the neck. But then it also is a really cool way to solo, because it's not single notes. You get to add other cool, phrases in there. And it's great if you're the only guitar player, because it kind of acts as like two guitar parts at one time. You can play, melody lines and kind of chords at the same time, right? So hugely, hugely helpful in my own playing. And I have a course called Hendrix Unleashed. It's part of the membership. All that stuff's down below at brettpapa.com. If you want to support the cause, keep the free videos coming, make sure to go to brettpapa.com, check out the courses. I promise it'll help you. Quick, awesome lessons designed to get you better fast, not a ton of theory. Okay, so in this lesson, I think it was a Willie Nelson song, and it was just really basic. It was like, it had that cool like, something like that, right? And it was just walking melody lines. And I was like, oh, okay, well, like what would I play to that and not do my default want to shred all over something and just make no music at all? Like, how could I do that and play a simple, slow melody line that would work in a song like that? And so I'm like, well, double stops, right? That's the coolest way to do, put some tremolo on and like just really mellow double stops. The guys in town here are so freaking good at it. It makes me want to quit. But anyways, so that song, A chord, it's just a 1, 4, 5, D to E. So let's look at some ways we can add double stops to our playing. So if I took an A chord shape like this, if you think about having your second position pentatonic scale, that second shape, that right there, that's a great shape to get the double stops out of. Right, and it's easy to move around and it's easy to hit all the chords because check it out, you have an A chord here. And this is gonna be like this in any spot we move to, but check this out. So A here, right? So again, think about that second shape, right? That's what our licks are gonna come out of. Right, and that's just hammering onto the third. Now, this note right here is actually part of my next chord, the D. Okay? Now, when you have these A-shaped chords, there's two ways to think about this. If you know the CAGED system, then this is an A-shaped chord, and you would know that the G shape of the chord is next, and that G shape looks like this, right? Pretend it's a G chord with a capo, right? So this spelling of this chord, though, actually makes a D, right? Here's your root on the D. There's the third of the chord, right? And it's also that shape 1 of the major pentatonic scale. So you could go from that, right? You got that nice little... Right, so if you're a guitar player too, and somebody's doing that, you could be like... And I just use that G shape or that pentatonic shape 1. And you're actually playing the chord, right? You got the 5th, the root, and the 3rd. And then I could keep that same shape, and now I'm hitting the notes of this A chord, right? I got 5th, root, 3rd. So I went from my 4 chord to the 1 chord using the exact same shapes. Right, so we got... I see how it sounds like that A chord? So that's one thing that you can do. Now you can pepper this in with, you know, single line melodies. So if somebody's... But check this out. So now that there's a D shape, right? Or you can think of this as a C shape. So this chord right here, right, is my A, because I'm hammering into the 3rd. But this is also part of the C shape of an E chord. Right? The only thing I have to do differently to walk down from this chord here, which would be my A, right? And I could accentuate that octave. And now I could do the walk down and then go. Right? So if I'm going from my 1 chord to the 5 chord, right? So if I did the whole thing in context, we got... And then I just go back down. So in the A chord, I'm gonna, right, concentrate on my 3rd of my chord, right? I got the 5th and my 3rd here. And then when I go to the E chord, that shape is like this. So I'm just gonna move it up to concentrate on those so I can go, right? And then that A chord now becomes the 5 chord, right? So, now the cool thing is when you do these 6th runs, it also is, you can think of it as CAGED shapes too. The E shape, which is this one, and the D shape of the chord, which looks like this, right? Both A chords, so it'd be like, this would be the full A chord, the D shape. When you do this, you're going from an A here to an A here, right? Now I could walk up like that, and now that I'm thinking about it, my D is right here, right? So, I could do that same move, right? I'm working out of that E shape, remember this? That. Now I have the 4 chord, and I can do that same trick I did with the E, but now it's the 1, right? So here I went, okay, so that would be a 1 to 5, right? So A to E. But when I go up to this next shape up here, check it out. All 4 chord. Now I can do that same move. And I'm back to my 1, right? It's that C shape or that D shape, however you want to think about it. And then my E's right here, so I could go, right? So when you start to look at, and this is really great to practice 1-4-5. I suck. I think I do at playing 1-4-5s, especially when they're like in a major key. There's all these guys around town, go hang with Go Through Trap or Corey Congilio or any of my Ford Thurster or any of my friends around town. They're so good at playing this stuff. They can throw in just the most whacked out arpeggios. They got wicked, chromatic licks. They're just incredible guitar players. And they're so good at playing blues progressions because whether it's country or blues, there's 1-4-5s being played all the time. So these guys just absolutely destroy these 1-4-5s in a good way, right? And they're good at playing off of the chords, so they can play like the 1 chords key, the 4 chords key, the 5 chords key, all that stuff. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay. I'm not a huge fan of always playing over 1-4-5s, I like blues rock, if it's like Trower or Hendrix or Stevie Ray, I'm cool with it. Even some of the Stevie Ray's like happier blues though, I'm like, it just doesn't Pride and Joy. It's never been a song I particularly cared for. I know that's like blasphemy, but whatever, right? So Red House or something like that, or, some happy Hendrix, love that kind of stuff. But I like blues rock. And I think because I like that, I've never learn how to play great over a 1-4-5. I've just never done that. And through just this last, 2 or 3 weeks, of saying, okay, and stumbling upon all of these 1-4-5s in that, show, I'm like, okay, well, how do I start getting better at doing this, right? And so we're learning together, but I've found that double stops, is a great first step, whether it's double stops or those 6s, right? It's starting to become easier for me, right? And you got to go back to like first grade level. You got to like really discipline yourself not to try to shred, you know, especially if you have technique. You know, like I was one of those players that my technique developed way faster than my melodic sense. And so now I got to go backwards. I got to like fight the urge not to just, you know, chromatic shred all over the place and do what I normally do. And just go back to really trying to play something super simple and super melodic. Because as a musician and as a guitar player, you got to be able to do both. And I swear to you, playing a really heartfelt, slow solo is as hard to me as playing and really convincing on the spot, improvising to like, we're like, wow, that was really good, you know? So many guys in town can do that, right? The session guys too. They're just so good at playing to a song. And I think as musicians, again, if you have some technical ability, but are working on melody, just stop trying to work on technique and start going to melody and start using chord pieces and chord tones as a way to kind of baby step your way into playing melody. Because once that develops, then when you go back to your technique, then it's all gonna work. You're gonna hit those chord changes and you're gonna have all of that stuff at your disposal, which is like what all the great guys here in town do. So try doing that. Again, you know a couple of shapes, like if you're here, doing these E-shaped chords, think of that pentatonic shape 2 under your fingers. And think of, you know, hammering into the 3rd. If shape 2 is right here, that means shape 3 of the pentatonic's right here. And that's where you get, you know, all those cool. You get all that cool stuff, right? These A-shaped chords, right? Think of it like an A, like capo. Shape 1 of the pentatonic scale is right here, or you can think of it as the G shape in the CAGED system, right? But that's, and it's that same thing. Now, the cool thing is, go one step further. If you've moved to here, and you think about the G shape, then you're gonna know, like, oh, okay, you know, I'm here. So that means the E shape is right here. So you can go from, right, and do those same tricks you did here. Okay, now there's that. And then around this shape, right, these D shapes, you're always gonna have that 4th shape of the pentatonic scale. Okay, so, right, which is out of that. So remember, when we're doing a 1-4-5, when you're here, your 1 is here, and if you do this move, all you gotta do is go down, and your 5's right there, out of this shape, okay? And that other cool trick to play around with is when you're doing your 1 in this shape, right, you have that same pattern, that same idea, but now this shape is the 1 and this is the 4. Okay? And you know, your 5's only a whole step away, so you can always See how you can hit those 1-4-5 changes really easily with double stops? Try doing that, you know, and then take pieces of those. Like I said, you have the, right? And then update this D up here. Right, and start to try doing those sixes and whatever the other ones are called into double stops and moving from one chord shape, like the E shape, to the D shape. And now you're at 1 and 4, right? So you're moving the shapes that are around what you're doing, you know, as you move up the neck, but the patterns are very similar, right? The tricks of going from the 1 chord to the 5 chord or the 1 chord to the 4 chord, it's gonna be the same tricks. You just gotta move into a new spot. And that really will help you start to play the changes. This works really great in major too. Major always for me was the hardest kind of key to get comfortable in, to become more melodic, because there's something about minor that just lends itself to being more raw, where major keys, you wanna hear melody. Now, if you start with something very familiar, like a 1-4-5, this is really gonna help, right? And try not to do single note soloing, at least for the first, 20 minutes of doing this. Then implement it back in, right? So if you know like the, and do it in that sort of a way. All right, so thank you once again so much for checking out the videos. Again, all of this is brought to you by your support at brettpapa.com. I got tons of stuff down there. The best deal, the best bang for the buck is the membership. That is every course I've ever done, many of the courses from the guest instructors, plus the courses that are not in the membership by the guest instructors, you get a 25% discount on. In addition to, right? So if it's 30% off, you get 55% off. But anyways, that is how you get all these free videos. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the continued support. Make sure to like and subscribe and share the video if you dug it and you thought somebody else might dig it. Sharing is caring. You guys are amazing. I'll catch you next time.